TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark's at it!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in Dark's at it stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the TruthSeekah podcast. I'm your host, TruthSeekah, back with another exciting episode for you guys. And excited, delighted to be here. Want to say a huge shout out to everybody hanging out with us in the chat right now. Everybody listening to us on their podcasting devices as well. Welcome to the show. I'm excited about today's conversation. This is maybe always controversial topics that we discuss here. And we try to bridge the gap there because there's like a disconnect between spirituality and religion at times. And there's a disconnect because a lot of people who claim to be spiritual are not, but they're just merely superstitious. So we're going to be talking about some of this stuff today. It's going to be a good episode. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody supporting my work via Patreon because this is a listener-supported show. I couldn't do this without you guys. So huge shout out to everybody who's been supporting me from day one. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you for believing in my work, believing in my music and this podcast and what we bring to the table. Believe in community. That's a big part of what we're doing here. So huge shout out to you guys. I'm going to read off a couple names here. Some of the newest patrons within the last week or so. Shout out to Lip Hydro. What's up, Hydro? Thank you for supporting the work, coming on. I believe I know who you are. A lot of people change their names. They have like 17 different screen names, and it's hard to keep track of all these names, but I believe I know who you are, brother. Thank you for supporting the work. Also, shout out to Tania. Tatiana. It's probably Tatiana. Yeah, Tatiana Kimmel. Thank you for supporting the work. Thank you for believing in my work. I always butcher these names. It's just what I do. I'm sorry. And shout out to everybody who's been supporting. If you would like to, please head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, extra podcast, interviews, behind-the-scenes stuff, and also you get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the community aspect of what we're building here. So Thursday night School of the Mystics, the Discord community, all that stuff, which is how we do life really here. That's what it's about. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my guest today because we got to dive into this subject. It's going to be really good. There's a lot going on right now spiritually in the spirit realm. Media is playing a big role into this, television and stuff like that. So I want to get into this conversation here. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome on my guest, June Ahern. June, welcome to the podcast. How are you, my friend?
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it is a good time to talk about spirit.
There's a lot of stuff going on when we're mentioning this. We're, coming upon Halloween, and this whole season of just October, the weather's changing. a lot of mention of death and monsters and ghouls and goblins and spirits and things like that. You know, should we entertain this stuff? Should we, shelter our kids and keep them away? All of these questions, that we all have genuinely, like, should we open them up to this? What is it about? Should we participate in Halloween? We come from a lot of religious circles where they don't deal with Halloween at all. Where did the origins come from? These type of things I want to get into and really bridge the gap between, Christianity in a sense and what maybe some people would call secular or paganry or something like that, right? It's into things that are that they're not familiar with. The pastor really doesn't, go into this stuff, and we've been taught to kind of stay away from everything and just be over here in our corner versus partaking in the culture, partaking in the festivities and different ways to do that. So I want to get into some of that stuff with you. If you want to start off, it'd be awesome just to kind of go ahead and give a little bit of background about who you are, what you bring to the table. We could start there.
Okay. I grew up in a strict Catholic household. Certainly respect everything I received, my education and my understanding of spirituality and religion from my background. Then when I was around the age of 19, I actually wasn't 19, I had a serious car accident. And on the way to the hospital, I expired for a short time. And I went what I believe was to the other side. I went to heaven, if you will. I crossed over and then they brought me back. And it began a whole different outlook about life and the world where you're able to know and see things that you don't have information about. And also then to interact with those that have passed on. And so I followed through out of my fear of what was happening. I had to find answers. Why am I having this? Why am I having these experiences? Why do I know these things? Why is this person appearing to me? And it wasn't pleasant. So I cannot say, whoa, all this stuff happened and it was great. It was not pleasant. It was frightening. Certainly was not really all what my parents wanted for me as a Catholic to talk about knowing things about people. And I began to study the tarot cards, which was not acceptable either. So I had to really look at in time in life, what is superstition? I'm glad you brought that up. What is the truth? Find the truth. What is this season all about? Why do people celebrate it? What is paganism? And why are people turning to that? And people do it out of curiosity. It's like everybody wants to be part of something, right?
Yeah, something different too, something alternative,
Correct. I like that. Something alternative that they may not experience in their own traditional Christian religion. So that's what people did. Certainly from the 60s, I know how people started going, toward learning about spirituality in different ways. And Buddhism was one of the ways that people began to study. So I look at, when you said pagans, paganism, and this is a time of history. People that were pagan actually meant people of the earth. Pagan means people of the stone, people of the earth. People were so dependent on the seasons. You said, it's starting to get colder. It's getting darker. At one time, that meant so much to people. They could not survive if they did not pay attention to the weather.
Yeah.
That's where it really came from. Was there superstitions? Absolutely. Were there many gods? Absolutely. But if you look at gods and you look at saints, it's the transferring of this power to an being, because saints were people that lived and were canonized, holy people. So it's the superstition that begins to, it's the fear. Superstition is fear.
Yeah.
Fear. And I do question everything. If someone comes to me and says, oh, I had these things in my house, ghouls or whatever, I'm like, okay. And then I question, I may even go to what they're talking about. And I pick it up for myself, and I hope to put some sort of reason and logic into it.
You've done some work on a paranormal TV show as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, the haunted house, the haunted bay, investigations. I don't know if I'm always as popular as some because I don't do all the fearful, spooky stuff.
Yeah.
I look at it and say, let's go in here. Don't tell me anything. Let's see what's here. And can you back it up? That's what I asked the producer, who does a lot of research
Yeah.
to find answers to what I have picked up. I have gone in and found particular, what you call ghosts. Why are they still there? Why don't they move on? And I've learned a lot. You know what? I've learned a lot from spirits that are not moving on. I'm like, I didn't know this before. And
Well,
that's
that could be. I mean, that could be hard because I've been thinking about death a lot lately, and I think it's been because of some of the things that I've been entertaining. Like I told you before we went live, I just watched the Haunting of Hill House. Great Netflix series. Great. You definitely it definitely brings you to terms with death and leaving. So I've been in this weird place. I know what the Bible says about dying. I know what it talks about the afterlife, and I don't think my fear of dying, because I still have this little fear there. Like I'm not afraid about what comes and what happens when I get there. My fear is like you're talking about moving on. Like this life is pretty fun. Like it provides us with some really cool experiences. I mean, animals, dog, like just the small things, man, that are so beautiful. And just that notion that you're going to be sucked out of this existence and not be here and have to move on to another one, even if it is beautiful, even if it is heavenly and angelic and so beautiful. Like this is a really cool place. I think people take that for granted. So I've been in this weird place about dying, not the fear of the afterlife, but the fear of not being able to do the little small things here on the earth. So does that come into play when we're talking about spirits not transitioning and being stuck here and things like that? Something that keeps them connected to this realm?
I couldn't have said it any more beautiful about planet Earth. Thank you so much. This is a beautiful place in the smallest of ways. Sitting in a bus bench and watching people and kids come, and you just beautifully.
Small things. Yeah.
Yeah. The animals, our children, are, for me, my grandchildren.
Yep.
And this time of year really is the celebration of those that have gone on before us. I will get to what you said, those that have gone on, but it's also the celebration of what you just said. That's the merry part of Halloween. Enjoy the life. Enjoy the children and the laughter, how excited they get about life. And on the other side, leaving planet Earth and the spirits that don't want to, that's what there was one spirit I met in we would call it an alley, but it's like a thorough between streets. It's a small street. And I asked him, don't you want to move on? I was so serious. I was going to save a soul. And he said, why should I? Have a great time. I talk to people like you. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. Isn't everybody supposed to go to heaven or wherever they're supposed to go? And then I began to understand about dimensions, about different people in different space and time. And that, if you think about our life, we actually live in different dimensions as children, teenagers, young adults. And what we thought about as children begins to change. So do they all want, some are suffering, some are repeating. Do you have any friends that go on and on about an age of their life when everything crashed for them?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you get like, oh God, will you just be quiet about this?
Some of those people don't stop at all. They make everything about them and about woe is me. Every conversation, every sentence has to deal with that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's the spirit that's stuck. They have not healed. Perhaps they were murdered. I have worked with the police on some cases of, unfortunately, murder, and it's not pleasant. I don't anymore. But that's the kind of spirits will often hang out here. They want their justice. They want to stop feeling, and I do believe in prayer. I'm a very strong prayer. I pray more than once, twice, 3 times every day. So can we pray for them? Yes. Why do they stick here? Well, I learned some of them like Earth, like you just said. Why would they want to move on?
Yeah.
But they physically participate in it. Like you pick up your child and you hug the child and you physically participate. Mm-hmm. They can only do it from mind, mental.
So with ghosts and stuff like that, like what is it like? Because we've seen like a lot of these ghosts and the ghost reports and stuff. Most of the time it's something, it almost seems like a tragic loop that these spirits or this, even if it is a spirit, maybe the energy, the vibration is stuck there and it just repeats over and over. Maybe if someone was someone committed suicide off of a bridge or off of a house, a building, there's like a loop that's pressed into time where people can see that. You see the ghost that appears the way that they died, and people are able to see that. There's ghost tours that almost, hey, let me show you this, what happens, and ghosts appear to people, or these impressions. What is that? Is that the physical, well, I don't know if we call it physical, but is that the spirit of that person that's stuck in the loop? Are they trying to, like you said, maybe show people something, that they want justice? Hey, I was brutally murdered. I died suddenly. This is how I died. Please help me. Like, what's going on there when people are able to see those type of loops and impressions with spirits?
Well, it certainly is a vibration. It is an energy. Everything is vibrating. When you sit out in nature is where you really understand what vibration is. All of a sudden you feel the plants, the flowers, the trees, the birds, the sky. And so everything's on a vibrational level. And they're repeating the story over and over again. And yes, are they looking for help? Well, they can get help. There's many that can get help. People pray for them. And I say to someone, the best thing to do with that person that hung themselves in the room, and now you want to make it, your study, but you can't go in there. I do believe in prayer, as I said. Let's see if we can move them out. Sometimes you go in with a person like me who converses and says, listen, I know you're stuck. You really can't be here. You have to stop this energy and move your energy out of here and move it to someplace else. Unfortunately, it just doesn't always happen. It's certainly in places where great wars have taken place and many people died on a field. When you go by that place, you just feel it. You're so aware. And, you either kind of accept it or you don't go there. And not everybody has that same sensitivity. They certainly don't feel it like some of us.
Yeah, the Bible talks about it actually being a spiritual gift. It calls it the discernment of spirits. You're able to discern when there's spirits or energies around.
Yes, yeah. But what's the difference between people who really can do that and pray for spirits and people that prey upon the living? That is an area that's one of the reasons that I go out and I talk to people and I tell people, you don't really need a person like me. If I could give you knowledge and educate you how to live with it or do something about it, but don't rely on other people to tell you too much information about spirits. What can we do for them? Do we all move on to heaven? Well, I certainly know that there was heaven, purgatory, and hell. Some of us get to go if we live a decent life and we're compassionate toward others and we're not going to judge others. And I think that's important. And some of us don't quite make it. So what does that mean? I look at it as here on earth. So our spirit, we're spirits. What does spiritualism mean? It means that to be in touch with who we truly are, the spirit of who we really are. And certainly if you have a difficult childhood, people that have it, and then they heal, they return to their normal person of who they are. The child before, the pureness of who you are. So if you look at yourself as a spirit and you could come back and after you left the physical body, would you want to hang around this earth? That's what you want to say. And you would want to be with your loved ones. I know that you have loved ones, a family. You would want to come and say hello at times, or I love you, or comfort them. That's the beauty of being able to make that communication, but you can't linger here. You don't belong on the earth, physical earth, after you leave body.
So what's the deal with Halloween, All Saints Day, the Catholic Church, you said it was a holiday for you guys whenever you were younger.
Holiday of obligation, yeah.
So what's the deal with that? If somebody doesn't know anything about All Saints Day or honoring the saints and things like that, remembering them or praying for them, what actually is All Saints Day?
All Halloween Eve is Halloween is All Hallows Eve, which means all holy, like Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
it's a holy time before the actual celebration. So you have a certain ritual. And relating back to how important it was for people to understand weather, they didn't go down to their local supermarket and buy food. If you didn't grow it and you didn't store it or you couldn't barter for it, you ended up having to beg for it. So you think about begging as trick-or-treating. I'm going to go and ask you, do you have something so I can live the winter out? Or, you relied on charity, or what happened is you starved your children and your old people. It's really a time of honoring those during difficult times. You are willing to share what you have so you can get through the winter or the starving time. And that's what it's about. It's like saying, wow, it's getting cold. It's getting dark. Do you have some apples you put in storage that you can share? My children over here are really hungry. My grandfather's dying. And, even now, elderly people die more in winter than any other time of year, or sick and elderly. So what did they equate it to? They equated to, oh my God, here she comes. Here comes death. The banshees, they're coming. So in that way, they were trying to relate who will die and who will live. And they created this whole ritual around, well, we better honor our ancestors and ask them to help us. We're going to pray to them. So pagans, did pray. They prayed a lot and they honored. Now, they may not have done it the way that we would do it as Christians. They kind of came out of that. And so that's what it's about. All Saints Day is, again, honoring those who were holy. And then you have All Souls Day that followed All Saints Day in Catholicism. That was the 3 days. Hallows Eve, All Saints, and then All Souls.
So, where does it come in with like praying to saints? Because I know like that it comes from Samhain or whatever the case is, right? So you praying for them to watch over you, protection, that type of deal.
That's what we pray for. St. Christopher, if you're going on a trip, St. Francis for animals and peace, and St. Anthony to find things. So you find the saint that you will pray to. And so what the pagans did is they took their gods and goddesses, and when Catholicism came along, you had saints. Mm-hmm. So it's the mixing and the blending. It's the mixing and the blending of our ancestors who lived a certain way because of conditions, earth conditions. And then when Christianity came stronger, how do you blend the two so people feel natural? It feels like a natural flow. Mm-hmm. And so you pick a saint or you pray for saints and you honor them. We went to mass, and we would go to mass and we would do our ritual. And that's how the two blended together.
Yeah, everything's pretty much a blend now. It's so funny because like even the people who think that like they have an original thing with Christianity, or like Christmas or Easter or in any type of holiday, like it's borrowed, like everything's borrowed. There's nothing new under the sun. It all came from pagantry. I mean, pagans were here before Christians. Pagans were here before the Hebrews. And so everything is kind of borrowed down. And so, history kind of, falls in the lap of the person who won the battles or the one who lived to tell about it. And they get to kind of change things up and blend things together. So that's kind of what we have with Christianity and all of these different, holy days or holidays or what have you. So as far as like dressing up and stuff like that is, I don't know if it's just this sensationalizing of it, but like you have the spirits who would go back to the house and supposedly trick or treat. So you have a monster or a little creature or whatever, a skeleton, whoever, somebody dressing up, kind of playing that role over and over through that, just kind of like the veneration of it, going to the house, knocking on the door, trick or treat. And if you come to the door with candy or an apple or a treat, then they take the candy and they go to the next house. But if you didn't give them a treat, if you didn't give them candy, then they played a trick on you, trick or treat. If you don't give me a treat, I'm going to play a trick. And then you toilet paper the house or throw eggs at the house or something like that, right? So was that something that happened, though? Is that like a literal thing that happened, do you think? Because as far as like spirits going back, and if you didn't honor the spirits, then they played tricks on you or haunted that house or whatever the case is.
Absolutely. That's where it went back to. And why did you, here's the ritual. The ritual is go inside to your house, get safe, don't go out, because the spirits, all the spirits on All Hallows Eve, Halloween night, the veil has dropped between the two worlds. They get to walk. This doesn't mean all the happy little, loving little relative. This means all spirits.
Mm-hmm.
If you're outside and not a very nice spirit sees you, then they possibly will trick you. They'll trick you into saying, oh, why don't you come with me? I love you. Let's go over here to the trees and I'll take you down into the underworld. Of course, they don't tell you that because they're tricking you. And so why do you wear costumes? You wear costumes so you can hide from them. They can't really see you. There's also a belief. We used to say, what's your name? Baldy Bane. Ask me again. I'll tell you the same. You don't give your name to strangers. They're going to use it in some sort of form. And we know that now from identity fraud, right? Oh, what's your name? So dressing up had to do with not making yourself vulnerable to the not very nice, to the bad spirits. So you wore a mask and they couldn't recognize you. Like, let's go get Derek this year and take him off the planet Earth. Well, we can't find him because we don't know of all these people dressed up who he is.
They're coming to get you. So,
that are those evil spirits, yeah.
So, talking about spirits, like, is this something that that anyone should do? Is there dangers when it comes to consulting with spirits, talking to mediums? I've seen a lot of weird stuff with like Sylvia Brown over the years, some things that she has spoken out over people and they believed it, and it's like almost like speaking curses over people and weird stuff like that. And I could see how people, you know, can fall up under the power of persuasion for one. But is there danger with trying to communicate with spirits? I mean, even a lot of people who are deep into the occult will tell you to stay away from Ouija boards, trying to communicate with spirits and things like that. Just any spirit that's around. I had some bad blood back in the day for trying to open up to any spirit that was around. Ended up getting possessed, actually. So there's also some type of caution that's there. But just because there's caution, just because you have to be careful, right? That shouldn't say not to get into it, or if it's calling you or you're into it, right? So should we approach it with caution and be careful with it?
Absolutely. And I say this all the time. And I tell, I do not like the Ouija board. My sister and I had a very bad experience with it. I actually took it and put it outside the house. I didn't want it, at night, I just closed the door and said, I don't even want that in my house. Absolutely. And what I say is I do a blessing before I do any kind of my work, my spiritual work, whether it is a reading privately or going on an investigation. I do a blessing to myself. I say prayers so that I surround myself with protection. And I see people go, and what happens, just like you said, Derek, you open up and you can get an attachment. I actually got an attachment for the first time after, it's a long story, but I couldn't believe that I would get one.
Yeah,
That's
I know, right? That's the first trick.
I know everything.
Yeah.
I tell people to educate themselves. And again, that's why I wrote, the two books that I addressed, How to Talk with Spirits. And also, if you go for a reading, this is the kind of thing you do to protect yourself. Do not just hang on somebody. Oh, you did this or that. Really? Does it have reason in your life? Does that sound logical to you? That's what I tell people. You do not want to open up to any kind of spirit. When I saw somebody say, go ahead, be with me, touch me any way you want, I went, no, don't say that. Because yes, you are attracting all spirits into your whole body. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, you're right. People should not open up. If you feel you have a spirit and you want to talk, there are some very decent mediums. Mostly all mediums that I have ever met are good people. You may ask them for clarification. You may ask them, do you pick something up too? Or what do you pick up? And then ask yourself, does this sound reasonable to you? Can you identify with it? Not necessarily in the moment, because most people need time to think about it. But do not plunk a bunch of money down on somebody that you have not investigated to find out what is their track record. I won't talk badly about other mediums and psychics openly. But I have seen some things on television stuff. I just do not like at all with how they present the paranormal spirit world.
We had a guest on here, and she brought up this idea. She said she was in a relationship with a I guess in her worldview would be like an alien or an ET that communicated with her in the dream realm, and they were like lovers and in a relationship. Is that a red flag if someone wanting to, or a spirit wants to be in a relationship with someone? I mean, not the ghost of your husband or wife that passed, but someone who is looking for love in all the wrong places, maybe. Have you heard of that at all? People.
I have.
You have?
I have heard of that. I am very cautious of that because really, in a physical like way, other than a loved one, as you say, someone that was important, should not be trying to interact physically with you. That is an attachment. That's opening up your actual physical body. Now, for those that actually like speak in tongues, or those people that communicate voice from other entities, if they've done the right cautious and they know what they're doing, then there's a little difference. But I have heard of that, and I don't see any good in it. And I don't know this person you're speaking with, so I can't really say. It would certainly raise red flags in my mind. Like, I'd like to know more. I would probably ask a lot of questions of her. Yeah.
It did for me and a lot of the viewers as well. It was all fun and games until we heard about that. I mean, that sounds like a way you definitely would probably get possessed. Would be
absolutely,
join in union with the spirit that type of way. And
yes.
So let me ask you. So we're talking about ghosts. I don't know if demons are kind of in that cup as well at times, but the ghost and demons, whether they physically exist or whether they exist in your own mind only to you, whether they're even demons or daemons for that matter, exist to kind of help you cope, help you get along. In that show, I'm not going to give away too many spoilers. I just encourage people to go watch The Haunting of Hill House. I want to talk about it, but there's a lot of great concepts in that show. But talking about the demons or spirits that exist in your mind, right? And they're there for you or to help you get through, to get over something. That person's voice is always there telling you, don't do this, do that, or whatever. That may not physically exist or may not literally be the ghost of that person, but the essence is still there for the individual.
Well, it reminds me when you were speaking, we learned that there was a good angel on this side and a not evil angel on that side, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's the polarity between being human. I often look at spirits work through physical people. So if you're calling your angel and you don't know if your angel is helping you, and someone shows up, say they show up and they say, I hope you're feeling better, or here, let me give you something to help you. Well, that's your angel working through it. So on the opposite end, then do demons work through living people? And why do demons come? Evil. I often call them vampire entities. They're here to drain you.
Yeah.
And you can learn a lesson certainly if you come in contact with a vampire entity. You're asking if it's in your mind or if it's in your body. If it's in your mind that strong, you will create it in your body.
Exactly.
It goes back to illnesses. Someone keeps saying, well, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And pretty soon they're in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it? Was it I mentally thought I was not feeling well? So they can actually move into your body. I'm very cautious about that. It really can happen. Mentally, it begins there. Where do I see my spirits? I see them mentally first. I don't want them to show up. When they show up, even I go, whoa. Mm-hmm. So I'm very cautious about the vampire entities. And I gave an example before, a friend that goes on and on and on and drains you. You're on the phone, you think, I got to get off this phone.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with those kind of entities. They drain you of your energy and they drain you emotionally. You cannot cope emotionally after a while.
Mm-hmm.
I answered what we were talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's kind of similar to like a persona or a topa, which is I don't know if you've heard of that term at all, but it's kind of new to me. But these people who kind of create these entities within their own psyche, within their own mind, and they give life to it, and they talk to it, and they nurse it and communicate with it, and eventually it starts communicating back, and there's this entity that's now formed that you created with your own thought matter. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of sounds something similar to that.
You become it.
Yeah.
And begins to really make you appear very mentally unstable. You do actions, your emotions become unreasonable, and people around you say, gee, what happened to, Mary over there? All of a sudden, she's just this different person.
Yeah.
That brings me to something, and this is not our topic, but I'll just mention it. That's what I don't like about drugs. I'm not into it. I am a child of the 60s, so I do get them. It's not like I don't get them. But drugs will open you up to not very good things. They will open up, and I'm talking about drugs like speed or heroin or cocaine. They open up the psyche,
Mm-hmm.
and then the psyche doesn't have the ability to shut down what is actual reasonable, logical ways of living on planet Earth. And you kind of, artists have to go to that other realm. They can't always live in reason and logic. They have to. How could you create music? How can you create anything if you do not go? So be very cautious, people, with someone that you know that's on drugs and begins to tell you a lot. Because they are seeing it, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not.
Man, I've got some crazy stories about that. And it's so weird too, though, just kind of relating back, is like when we're talking about spirits, I mean, alcohol, you have wine and spirits. And I remember passing by an alcohol store here, a liquor store named Bacchus. Bacchus is the name of a pagan god of drunkenness and revelry, right? And so it's like the name of the store was called Bacchus Wines or whatever, wines and spirits. And so there's something there about getting so intoxicated or so out of your mind to where you start being able to be influenced by spirits. And so I know there's talks about these spirits that hang at the top of doorways, and they like to hang out at bars, so that people who are drunk or severely under the influence they don't really have control of all of their faculties. Their mind is a little unstable. They're just open to whatever. They don't really guard their tongue, those type of things. And they say these spirits hang out at the top of the doorways, and they hang out and they fall upon the backs of people, and they go down into their spirit. And so you have these type of entities attached to you, hanging out at bars and stuff like that. So there's definitely a connection there. And I have I've had people who are even friends or whatever, but I'm careful, man. If somebody is hooked on hard drugs, and I'm real mindful about who I allow to speak into my life. And I've had some weird accusations from people who are like on heavy heroin and smoking crack and stuff like that. But then again, they try to be spiritual. They try to tap into those realms and stuff, but they're on these hard drugs and they're addicted. It's the different delusions and things that come with that. It leaves the person mentally unstable. And when we're talking about demonic possession or demonic influence, I found, and I truly believe that they want to get you to a state where you don't have control of your thoughts, where they're thinking for you, and you become mentally unstable. You become insane. And I've seen it a lot. I've had to deal with it, and it's about the mind, keeping the mind sharp, keeping the mind on guard,
keeping yourself, the spirit of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you said right when you said down through the back of your neck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's your spine is your nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything on your spine, so they enter right there between the brain stem. There's a little space, and then your spine. And they enter through there. They can enter over here in your shoulders. I mean, I'm always surprised over the years of my work, 45 years, when I actually see these kind of attachments, and I say, whoa, or when I see somebody speaking, they're out of their mind on crack. but they're speaking in tongues, or they're speaking some stuff, and some of it is for real.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're possessed.
Yeah.
They're possessed.
You gotta be careful. Even in the church circles, man, there was a Christian ministry down here in the South, out of Panama City. It's called Christian International, and so there was the kind of a training facility place for the Christian prophets, and so to teach people how to prophesy, teach people how to discern spirits, and speak into people's life, and be able to pray for someone, and be able to feel what that person was going through and stuff. And so they would open it up, and they would do personal ministry where people would drive to go there for the weekend to receive ministry from their prophets. But I knew a guy who was on crack, and he was smoking crack, and he would go there and he would minister to people while he was on crack. And I was like, man, and it's about being able to discern those people around you. Like that's not good to be able to do that, And so discerning is a big thing, man. I think we all have to get into. And like, I remember the guy who led me to the Lord back in the day. He's like a very spiritual guy, maybe too spiritual, you know what I'm saying? And so he had someone come to the church, and it was a friend of his, and he's like, man, you guys are prophesying, you're healing people, laying hands on people, and all of these wonderful miracles that are taking place within your church, but you guys can't discern that you're just letting your children run around the church, and there's known child molesters sitting in the congregation, and your kids are sitting in their lap. And it's like, you guys are so spiritual and able to do miracles, but you can't discern this stuff going on. So it really comes down to be able to discern who and what, the Bible says to know them that labor amongst you, and know what they're doing, and know what they're going through, and not just let anybody speak into your life. There's a lot of people who are charlatans. There's a lot of people who are charismatic. They're just really well spoken, and they're in the churches. They're in the psychic medium. They're everywhere. It's not just they're here. It has no, respecter of persons. It's in every field. It's in every religion. It's in every spiritual creed. And you have those people who are master manipulators, and you have to be careful. And you have, and a lot of times they're controlled by spirits as well.
Yes. Yeah. And they get into their ego. Mm-hmm. I can do this. I can heal people. I can, working in the field of what I do, I have to daily check and make sure that, am I really coming for the better of a person? Not better for me, not how I think they should be, but is the person living more joyfully and peacefully? I love Jesus. I'm a big fan of Jesus. And I think that if we really just kept it simple and followed Jesus' path of love and sharing and peace, then we would not have so much confusion of what is right and what is wrong, because it's pretty much set down there. And for people to lay hands on means that you are transferring a healing energy of whomever, whether it be Jesus, God, the Virgin Mary, you're transferring that energy to the person. So if I am under the influence of drugs, or I live a life where I've lied, and I live a life where I'm cheating, I am transferring my energy to you.
Yeah.
Now you may wish a healing, so you fall back and say, oh, I've been healed. But have you been healed from judging and lying? Have you been healed from that? Because that's where it begins. When we look out, or fear, the world is a bad place. That is some of the problems that I do have with certain religions, is that they look into the world with a lot of fear.
Yeah.
They look and say, let me bring the light to the world. Let me be joyful and peaceful as best I can in this world, and be aware, as you say. When your daughter or your child goes out, you don't say to your children, be afraid of everything. You say, be aware. Is that man or woman standing too close to you and keeps moving? Move away. So I'm really look at fear. Why do we have to live on fear? Why can't we not enlighten ourselves in a healing way? So yeah, there's a lot of people preying on people using the word religion.
Yeah. It's insane. Talking about possession, have you ever actually had to deal with any exorcisms, or have you dealt with people who were possessed?
Yes. And I only did it a couple of times, and I said, I'll send you to somebody else. That's how scary it was.
Yeah.
I always say, if I'm scared, oh boy, because I don't get scared at a lot of things. What scares me is more of human people and their attitudes. So I was down in Jamaica. I was brought to Jamaica, paid to come down, commissioned to come down and to do some classes and do some readings by wonderful Jamaican people. What an experience. And one of a man that came to me, he was a doctor, and he had gone back and forth to New York with his wife to find a cure for her. And she had cancer, and they cured, but they told me she was being attacked by demons. And I'm thinking, yeah, right, superstitious. So I agreed to go to their house in Jamaica. Now, this is July in Jamaica. Do you know how hot it is in Jamaica?
Probably not as hot as it is in Alabama.
Probably near the same, right? So I went down to their house with a kind of cocky attitude. And because I had never dealt with that kind of possession. I walked into that house and I felt like I was walking into a refrigerator. It turned cold. I said, I have to go to this back room. They had a room off a kitchen. It was like a storage area. I opened the door. I felt I walked into a meat locker, a freezer. And I just felt such horrible energy around me. And I actually started to faint. I'm not a dramatic person. So for me, having to feel like I'm fainting was a big deal. And they had to help me out. And they took me to the wife. And I literally experienced being slapped like a wet towel. My brother used to hit us with a wet towel.
Oh, mine too.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Being pinched. And I wish I had taken pictures after. I didn't think about it. I actually ended up with bruises on me. I could hear these voices exceed to the whole walls. And the woman was in bed with mountains of blankets on her. And I went to her and I tried to comfort her. And I said, I will do all I can. I said, but you know what? I don't have that kind of experience or education. You need to look at leaving the spot. I felt it was the area where they were. I asked, do you know anything about the spot? And they didn't. But I know there was a stream nearby, and I have often found that entities can move with water, like an electrical current. And so I left. That was my real first. I've been haunted, but as I say, I work with the police with murder victims. It's not pleasant. It's not for me. I really removed myself from it.
Mm-hmm. It could be intense, and some of the big name exorcists over the years have said that, the ministry or the life expectancy of an exorcist isn't that long, 4 years tops, someone who really does it for a profession, because the mental wear and tear that it takes for someone who's going through that stuff, that's something that you have to be on your P's and Q's on. You can't just approach it nonchalantly. Like, there's no way you go into that.
I'm going to do a white light. It's like, oh, no, you're not here. And it's mental, emotional, but it is also physical, Derek. I mean, I actually was ill after that.
Yeah.
You actually get so worn down. It gets in your nervous system. You start having organ problems. Yeah. It's not pleasant at all. I leave that like this, like, okay, let someone else handle it. I won't go. I get people asking me, will you come to my house? I think I have a demon. I say, not me.
Spirits, not demons. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's a good thing too. We're talking about spirits and demons, and it's not just one or the other. There's a whole plethora of entities and elementals and spirits of just vibrational spirits of essences and love and reflection and family. So just to say that one communes with the spirits, it's kind of that's a very broad statement. What type of spirits? What have you encountered? What do you deal with? Because we are entertaining angels, and angels are ministering spirits that minister. And so they're, they're a form of spirits, and there's so many. So have you ever had any, I guess when I'm talking about this, have you ever had any encounters with the elemental kingdom, the elemental spirits at all?
Are you speaking about what we call God and angels and like that?
Well, it would be some that were over the elements, maybe fairies, gnomes.
I was just going to say, from elementary, I look at it. I just wanted to clarify, because fairies, we're talking about the fairies, the nature spirits, the divas, like that, divas. No, I don't really think I have. I have people that are very in tune to that. I'm out in nature. Well, before the last 8 weeks, fractured my ankle and I had surgery. So I have not been outdoors. Like, I go out in nature all the time and I feel the energy of nature. I have not encountered the divas, the nature and the fairies, but I do feel the energy around me. So no, I haven't had that experience.
What so you're talking about helping people with spirits and being able to feel them. There's different ways of feeling them.
Correct.
Smelling them even. Can
Oh
you
yeah.
you
Oh
know
yeah.
I think
I
they
had
play
a,
off of our five senses, right? And there's different, probably
absolutely.
with each sense, there's a way to sense the spirit, right?
Yeah, mental. I have a tendency to be much more in my mind, so mental. But the other night we were having a spirit communication. I had a group, about 10, and I kept smelling this. You know, when you shave wood, when you work with wood, that's beautiful smell off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is wonderful. And I looked at a woman, I said, I think that your grandfather's here. And did he work with wood? And she kind of hemmed and hawed. Well, he did. And then later she said, well, he worked at a sawmill, but he quit it to go to something else. I said, his spirit, he was still with wood. I could smell the wood. I could smell the forest. I said, he's outside. And often you will hear sounds. And that will be like a message to somebody, like I'm hearing music, like someone who passed on that really liked music. Or I would smell tobacco. I would say to somebody, oh, I'm smelling tobacco. There's nothing here, but or pipe. And
Smoke, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that when the smell comes through, and so it's not only what you see, it's what you smell, what you hear, even what you taste. I will say to people, well, I'm tasting coffee. I'm not really a coffee drinker. That's not I taste coffee in my mouth. I'm like, I'm tasting coffee. They'll say, oh, my husband, he had like 4 cups of coffee every morning.
Sounds like me.
And it's just beautiful. I really love my work in that way, and bringing some sort of, if hopefully my idea is, can I bring you something like comfort or knowledge? That's how I look at it. What can I bring you from the spirit world?
Yeah. And there's I guess when we're talking about ESP, extrasensory perception, the different clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, it's really cool because I like to study that stuff and then read the scriptures, and as you're aware of that, we start seeing Jesus kind of like operating in each one of these, and then the disciples being able to hear something or have a dream or have a smell or a feeling or a nudge or whatever, or be able to see a vision and be able to heal people from that, or be able to help people, get to where they're trying to go. So it's being able to be sensitive to the spirit realm to help people where they are. And like you said, it doesn't matter which spirits. I mean, I guess starting out for me, it was big on like using that stuff to communicate with the Holy Spirit, right? The spirit of that's communicating with us through dreams, through visions, through
The Holy Spirit.
yeah, it's the same thing.
We call it the Holy Ghost, and then they changed it to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, Holy Ghost, right? Well, see, that's funny too, because I've been a part of circles that say he's not a ghost. It's not a ghost, so we're not going to use that term ghost. A ghost is a disembodied spirit, so he's not a ghost. We're going to call him Holy Spirit. And then there's some circles who get really weird, and they only call him him. They call it like it's a they don't even call him spirit. Well, they call it spirit, but that's like almost like that's the name of a person, like that's his name, Holy Spirit. And they talk to him in that type of way, but different things for different people, whatever helps them with their relationship. So
I think that whatever brings you to the heart of yourself, to me, it's all about yourself. Can you grow from it? Do you live better from it?
That's what all of it's about. But talking about ESP in your book, How to Talk with Spirits, you have a quiz in there that people can take to see if they're sensitive to those feelings and emotions.
And I created it years ago. It's in my first book. I created it for my first book, How to Get a Good Psychic Reading Without Getting Conned. And you find out, we're not naturally all clairvoyant, clairsensing, clairaudio. We could see. Clairvoyant, can I see? Clairaudio, do I hear? Clairsensing, do I feel? Most people are into the kind of do I feel. You could be very vulnerable by being that kind of sensitive, feeling everything, because it means that if somebody is upset, you become upset. and you don't know why. So in the test, it is asking questions to help you decipher what kind of ESP ability are you stronger in, and how can you how do you grow and be stronger in the other areas? And in that way, like me, I am all of it now. I was really clairvoyant in the beginning, seeing everything, and then I learned how to listen and then how to feel, and feeling has to be translated into words. Yeah, often sentient people, sensitives, they don't know how to get it up and speak about it. They say, I feel it, but I don't know how to say it. Well, I would teach people how to bring it up and how to recognize it and say it, how to say their psychic impressions. So it's really interesting. I just love that, the telepathy, and we're all telepathic. I mean, it's not like, somebody can be better at that ability. It's like, I look at it like sewing. I'm lucky I can sew a button onto a garment. I have friends that can make an outfit in a night, whereas I think it's ghosts and spirits, and I don't think it's like, wow, yeah, you could just do it. So everyone has it, and we use it all the time. And I know you're married. I know you and your wife will say, I was just going to say that.
All the time, yeah.
All the time, because that's how connected you are with your vibrational waves. That's what love does. It brings us a beautiful vibrational wave. And so in even when we speak to God or any spiritual being guidance, we're doing it telepathically.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it. That's how we can also influence in a positive way, hopefully in a positive way, our loved ones, our community, our country, by sending out telepathic thoughts. And that's part of that ESP. And I know I brought a lot of comfort to people that have both taken the test and taken my classes, where they don't feel like they're going crazy. People come to me, I got to tell you, I think I might be this or that, or I'm crazy. I say, well, tell me about it. And then I help them understand you're not crazy. And then some who would do well with a therapist or some other means, then I point them in that direction.
Yeah, it's really, and that takes the discernment of spirits to be able to talk to that person and say, we need to get you somebody else, versus just entertaining everything or trying to be, the healer for everything. Some people need, those doctors or whatever. I think that there might be, some medication that could possibly help people, and it's it becomes weird, because I get those messages too, and trying to discern, where this person is mentally, how did they get there, what what I'm saying, what do they need, those type of things. And so it's but you have to be sensitive, because like we just said, like these spirits want to get you off your rocker. They want you drooling on yourself and seeing stuff that other people can't see. But we're built and fashioned that way. So if you don't balance the energies, if it's calling out to you, and you've had those encounters and that's what you want to pursue, you have to be able to balance the energies and actually do the work, or you will go mad. It's just part of it,
And then there are people who in their brain, they have already certain chemicals are not working right, or parts of the brain, and they do need that help. They need that help to something on my computer, to have proper care, different from us. And I certainly have attracted a lot of people with bipolar and schizophrenia.
Yeah.
My life, both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And have to be very careful when they tell me their visions, because they truly are having this experience, but it's hurting them.
Yeah.
It's hurting them, and it's hurting their loved ones to watch them, because they don't take care of their body anymore. They don't take care of themselves. Their life becomes hard. So it's, as you said, sensitive to it. There was a man that wanted to come see me without his medication, schizophrenic.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea. When you get on your medicine, I will make an appointment for you. Even though the medicine kind of blocks some of the information, because medicine will do that in the psychic world.
Yeah.
If I opened up to him with all of his thoughts, then I could possibly even feel like I'm going mad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely you being sensitive, and you're
Yes.
around that person who's going through there. We just had someone recently who came around who kind of told me in private that, look, when I get around people, they start going schizophrenic. It's like, wow. To me, that sounds like some type of demons, right? Some type of demonic entities that you know what I'm saying, that are on you, that are messing with other people. I mean, that's a thing too, with like being able to discern spirits. When someone has spirits that may feel intimidating and you get around them, you can kind of hear their thoughts, that spirits communicating with you. If you do not balance the energy, I don't care who you are, like that stuff is scary. It will drive you mad. Like, so you're having a conversation with someone and you know what they're thinking as they're trying to so you're trying to listen to them, but there's this other telepathic almost communication that's going on without nobody saying a word, and you have to focus on what they're telling you. It can get really weird and overbearing, and there's medication and medicine to silence all of that. I don't think that's the route. I think it's balancing it, finding out how to turn it off and on, developing your giftings and abilities like a muscle. You can get better at it. There's practice and stuff like that, but you have to. It's nothing to play with, right? These are great examples because it's nothing to, hey, I watch these psychics on TV and they're doing it, we can do it. Like, you have to make sure that this is something that you want to do, and to get in, to open those doors, that there's it could be done, but a lot of people have gone mad in the midst of it, and there's a lot of people who reach out, like I said, to myself and to you, and we have to figure out how to help them, because those voices can get loud.
Absolutely, it gets louder than your own voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you can't be around people because you're just so sensitive, and you have. I was in a place years ago. I had to leave restaurants. There's just everybody's talking, and I can feel everything. And I'm trying to focus on my wife, and I have to go. I had to go sit in the car and just pray and read the Bible, just because I was so sensitive, and I couldn't control it, and it was just overbearing and scary. And I just multiple occasions where I had to do that.
That's a very good point. What you said. I couldn't control it. I didn't know how. And if you did not perhaps move into an area where you were able to balance yourself, you would read the Bible, you would have continued to feel you were going mad. Pretty soon you'd just be like, I want to be in a room away from everybody.
Yeah.
And there's people like that. I've met them over the years. They're wonderful people. Many of them are artists.
Yeah.
And they get it out through their art. And just talk to them, and they know they're being heard. I think that's the important part. When a sensitive finds a person like myself who says, oh, yeah, you're hearing too many voices, aren't you? You could hear it, and just to watch their life begin to change in a more educated way, and they can perhaps then go and help another person. Because I think that's what we're here for. I think that sensitives are here to help other people if they can. Help other people understand and feel they're not weird.
Yeah. Yeah. But then with that beacon, if that's what you do, hey, I help people feel like they're not weird, then obviously you attract the weirdos, and you have to discern through them. And some of it can be dangerous. I mean, I've always heard about that stuff and the overbearing fans. And I've always heard about pastors who would be married men, and women are just like, God told me that you're my husband, and you're with the wrong woman. I've always heard about that kind of stuff. And now that stuff's happening to me, and these people, like overbearing people something's not clicking. Like, it's not, they're living in a different world, and it's not always good. And I think that those type of people haven't balanced the energy, and it can get scary, man. When that stuff happens and they start messaging friends and fans of you, and it's kind of weird stuff that goes on, and we have to be careful. I've been dealing with a lot of them, Yeah. It's not just one or two here. It may, in some cases, it's been the majority. I'll say that, that the majority of people who come to me, but I believe there's help for a lot of people, but in some cases it's just overbearing. It's like, man, this is too much, this is really deep. But then you have to kind of remember why you're in it is to help people, and when I needed help, I was in a similar place. I needed help. I needed somebody to talk to. So you want to kind of be there, but you have to be careful. You start getting a name for yourself, and people
hang on you.
It's weird.
I have people
Scary.
ask me, June, what do you think I should do? June, what do you think of that? And I go, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then when they give me an answer, I can say, I look at them psychically and I see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Look at the chakras and the aura.
Yeah.
Say, well, this is kind of attached. So some really coming to me in some ways is like, though I can't legally say it, is like a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where I say to somebody, you know what? Do you have a name of a good therapist? Because I think that you could really heal through that. But there's times I go right to the heart of it and say, you're feeling weak in this area. And if you think about it, people have come to me with stories of going to other so-called psychics that have taken them and said, I had to give them like $500 so they light a candle. I go, well, you go buy a candle for a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
You can light it yourself.
Yeah.
So there's the vulnerable, Derek. There'll always be the vulnerable.
Yeah. And I was gonna bring up the psychic thing too, because I mean, in I guess in a way, you're a psychic medium, you deal with the psyche, you deal with discerning spirits and helping people get through that. I have a friend of mine who goes under the title psychic, and she has a broadcast that we do together every Wednesday nights. Tap in, tune in on Blog Talk, tapintunein.com, Christy Lee, Psychic Christy Lee. So I actually help with her a lot, but people will call in and they just want like that. Hey man, what do I do? What do you see? I want to get with this person. Am I going to get back with this lover? And she'll throw it to me and says, Derek, do you see anything? So it's just like, you have to, you know what I'm saying? The ball is in your court. Do you want to get back with this person? Let's start there. So you actually act as a therapist in a sense. It's like, versus just calling, hey, you got the answers, let me get it. It's like, what do you want? Now, there are ways we can do it. We can go through prayer. We can, different things you can do and activation and things, but it's whatever you want. Like, if you want it or not, whether you're just looking for somebody to speak it out. I mean, there's power in that. You want somebody to say, hey, you want somebody to affirm you and say, yes, you're going to get that marriage. God's going to restore it. And that's where prophesying comes in. You're almost telling the future almost in that sense, but you want to make sure you're right. You don't want to just like call in or somebody say, look, if somebody's calling in and they need help and they want to know if this is going to work out, you got to let them know that, look, the power is in your hands. The ball is in your court. What do you want to do? Do you want that marriage to work out? Well, guess what? There's things to do to make the marriage work out. There's things to do to make that relationship. There's things to do to get that job,
They don't listen to that. People come and they go, June, that thing didn't happen, or June, that thing happened. I says, well, did you take the first part of the reading, the first 30 minutes or something where there was looking at all these steps? They want the And people forget, why are readers called readers? They're called readers because they're reading your Akashic records. They're reading your inner self. They're reading what you already know. That's their ability. They're not going to tell you how to live your life. I wrote about that in my first book. When you go to get the most out of a reading, ask a question in a certain way. Not, will I be back with that person? Rather, it's, how do I create love a loving partner in my life? How do I create a loving, supportive partner in my life? Is it this person here? Can we look at him or her? Okay, well, let's look at that and see what has to be done. Exactly what you said. Unfortunately, people think that psychics are all knowing, and that is not true. I don't even care for the word psychic, but since everybody relates to it, I use it. I call myself a verbal communication spiritualist. But so how do you, when you ask a question, how do you ask a question who has that ability to look at the big picture, not just to look at the end result? Mm-hmm. Will I get a job? I don't know. Are you looking for one?
If you're putting applications in and you're trying, you probably will.
I do see a job and it has the, then you can describe what you see. In order to get it, you then have to do the application. Yeah. Or you have to do an education.
Kind of works hand in hand.
And some people go, I don't have time for the education money.
Yeah. I I started burning sage a couple years ago, and I had a guy come over to the house, and he said, "Do you think that works? You think sage, clears the spirits and stuff like that? You think it works?" I said, "Well," I said, "Yeah, I do." And he's kind of like skeptic. I was like, "Yeah, because once I started, burning sage, all I lost a lot of friends. Like all the negative people kind of stayed away from me, and it's funny." It's funny because we'll go to, like, what I'm saying, the Indian powwow, and there'll be a tent and they'll be burning sage, and they have trinkets and sage and stuff for sale, and there'd be nobody in there. I was like, you may want to put the sage out. The sage may be keeping all the negative people away. So I wanted to ask you about that sage. Do you burn sage? Do you believe in clearing and cleansing before you do anything spiritual like that? I know you talked about praying, but do you believe in burning sage in a way that affects spirits and stuff?
Yes. Again, when we would have high mass, they would burn frankincense, and people would be like, "Oh, I don't like that." As a kid, I loved it right away. I was like, "Oh man, that's great!" Because you look at aromatherapy. We'll look at perfume. Let's take it simple. Women and men, they decorate themselves with scents to attract. Right? You want to attract. Animals do it to attract. They use scents, and how powerful the sense of smell is, and how powerful it goes to our minds, our psyche. It can take us back to childhood. It can take us to a favorite time or a person. So I do believe in the power of aromatherapy, and certainly people are using it more and more for healing at this time. They're starting to, And so what does the sage do? Well, it's made of sweetgrass, and it's made of that brings up nature, the divas, right? We're back to the divas now. And they are cleaning out the energy, the air. Well, people go through and they spray their house, which I don't like those sprays at all, but they spray, I use more natural. They spray their house with scents before guests come over. And I walk into somewhere and I go, "Oh, did you spray your house?"
Yeah, chemicals.
It's the same thing. It's not that far out. And certainly the sage does clean the energy in a room, in a building. I do use it. I used it the other night when I did a whole ritual for All Hallows, and I used the frankincense and the myrrh. And you use certain scents for certain reasons.
Yeah. Someone brought this up about sage, and they said they didn't like it because of this. But this was a new idea that I had heard. It says that sage doesn't clear out the negative spirits. Sage kind of like clears out all spirits, and then from that point of kind of like pushing the reset button. So almost like clearing the room, and then maybe being able to kind of reset it with your spirit or the spirits that you bring into it or whatever. But it was this weird notion that this guy brought up, the fact that it would clear out all spirits.
Good. Then of course, when you're clearing, you have a chant or prayer, but you chant certain words, and so you are clearing the space. I don't. Yeah, that could be. But it certainly does clear the space, and if anything, it clears the psyche of your mind.
It's a ritual.
It's a ritual.
At the end of the day, whether it's just that prayer, some people say, "I don't need any sage. I don't believe in it. I don't use it. I just pray." Well, in your mind, that prayer is the equivalent of that sage. It's that ritual. It's still the power of the ritual. And if I do this, this will happen, or this gets me in the mood, or even like coffee in the morning. I'm not sure how much coffee wakes me up anymore. It's my ritual. I just enjoy it in the morning to start the day, and throughout the day as well. You're just used to those rituals.
You put your deodorant on, you brush your hair. It's a ritual. And, rituals are important because we are physical beings, mental, emotional, physical, and certain objects, physical objects, put us in the right mind frame to open up to anything in life. As you said, coffee in the morning. I've had people say, if I don't have my 2-3 cups, I'm not functioning. I'm mean, or I'm whatever. And I'm like, really? That's really not true, but it's true to you.
Exactly.
That's the sub. When people talk about, say, witchcraft or casting spells, and they say, well, it's terrible. They light candles and they have this and that. Well, it's a ritual of I'm connecting with things that are physically. I'm looking, I'm smelling, I'm hearing, it's not, they're not bad. The objects like a crystal. Does a crystal itself, does a sage itself, does the tarot cards itself? No, it's what you put into them.
Does the Bible itself? I knew
Yes,
people
the
who were
Bible
just, I
itself.
mean, they felt the same way about their Bible. Like, you even see, like, in a lot of the movies in the Catholic circles where they're like, if they're doing an exorcism, they put the Bible on them, or they put
Correct.
the cross on their forehead, and they burn up and stuff. And like, that relic has no power in and of itself. It's just pages and paper or whatever. But if you believe that it does, and maybe if your belief is strong enough that when you do that, something will happen. Now there's like, it can transfer because you believe it so much so when that person's kind of in limbo, they don't know. I look at Jesus, even like when he spit in the dirt and made the mud and wiped it in that guy's eyes, and he was healed. I don't think that had anything to do with his spit or the dirt. I think it was just an act of faith that if I did this and make something up that you didn't think I could use to do it. And I've seen things happen like that with people being healed or whatever the case is, or like miracles happening, or the spirit of a room changing because someone did something different. And that's usually what it is, going outside of what we know to be like, this is what it is and it's only this way. And so I think that even this podcast, we're able to kind of discuss some of the things that people think they have it figured out, but there's just more than one, way to kind of